A very good morning to you. The moral of the story is, if you don't have your head out of neutral, don't put your mouth in first gear. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Brunch at 107.7 Music for Life. It is good to have you here. When we get together here, we discuss the issues at hand. Sometimes folks think that all we do is discuss the issues in politics. No, it is part of your life, so we discuss it. But we are all about whatever is happening in your life. Some things you may remind us about, some things you can enlighten us to, and some things we may see on the side that we come to. My name is Rennie Bishop, and my co-host
Sharmain Baboolal, and it's a very light morning, as you can imagine, as a sharp contrast to what we had to offer for you last week. Hard questions and very serious concerns. But we've got a magazine laid out for you this morning, a Sunday morning magazine that's basically a format for today. As first our guest, and he's waiting on the line, is Mr. Robert Daisley, who is the principal character in a landmark court judgment that may have gone unnoticed over the week in light of all that's playing out with the usual politics and all of that. And Mr. Daisley is... we have Mr. Daisley, of course. We're just going to tell you in advance our next guest, and he's on his way, is the president of Pan Trinidad, Mr. Keith Diaz. At very short notice, he has agreed to come onto the program because we've got an international conference in Pan in Trinidad this week, and there's some buzz in Pan circles. And Mr. Bishop, later on, we'll be
going to Tobago to see what's going on in Tobago. We'll be speaking to one of the PROs for the PNM. She's also, more importantly, chief medical advisor to Tobago House of Assembly. We'll be talking about a whole lot of things with health in Tobago and the infrastructure of Tobago. And then we go to New York City and speak to the president of the West Indian American Carnival Day Association, Mr. Thomas Bailey, who will be joining us. There's a controversy going on there, but hold on, we'll tell you about that in a while.
But first, Mr. Daisley, you're waiting on the line, but let's give you a little bit of background before we get into him. Mr. Daisley was a lab assistant at what was known as Federation Chemicals Ltd. Most of us would remember that firm, that it was... and he was a lab assistant there from 1972 to 1993, after which he became a plant operator in 1993 until 2006. Unfortunately, in 2008, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he's going to give us all of that explanation. He was brave enough, and he took them to court in 2012 because there was some empirical evidence that proved that his work in the lab led to him being diagnosed with cancer. The company has since changed hands, and it's now in the hands of Yara Limited. They bought over Fedchem. Thursday, there was a judgment was handed down by Justice Rajendra Rampasad, where he was awarded costs to the tune of $1 million TT, which in our preliminary discussions with him before he came on the program, he is saying that, look, that's nothing to pay for his life and what his life has become at the still young age of 55 years. Good morning, Mr. Daisley.
Mr. Daisley, good morning, sir.
Hello, good day.
You're live on 107.7 FM. Good morning. How are you this morning?
I am fair to fine as every day. I don't feel that well as the day come along. I may feel better as the day go along.
And it's still early time yet for you in your day. But can we start by asking you to give us the background to you reaching to the point where you decided, where you had the strength, really, to decide that you're going to go to court and challenge this company because working there, led to you being diagnosed with cancer?
Okay, well, it so happened in 2008, I was diagnosed with cancer of the nasopharynx and nasopharyngeal cancer and prostate cancer. That took place sometime in May 2008. I was overwhelmed with the thought that it was cancer I had, and I thought that it would be the cause of my demise. I thought I would pass away. So it was hard to accept such a pronunciation, but I had to go with it. I was determined to see how best I can cope with it. And after speaking to Dr. Ahmad, I got the confidence that, I may get through. So, she gave me the confidence to carry on with my life then. She said that the treatment would probably cure me.
And
Hello?
yours was the first ever case of that, your particular type of cancer in your nasal tract that was diagnosed in Trinidad?
Nasopharyngeal cancer is a very rare form of cancer. You don't find it so in Trinidad and Tobago. I think the doctor said of all the cases he interviewed, I am the first man of African descent with this form of cancer. It is very rare in Trinidad. The first one he examined and was able to see this form of cancer.
Okay, so we just taken it one step further, having been diagnosed, and then you would have started treatment. At what point did you decide that you're going to court and you're going to challenge Federation Chemicals Ltd?
Well, you see, I worked among a multiplicity of carcinogen, hazardous chemical carcinogen. And at that point, I started to reflect on some of the chemicals that I worked with. I thought one of these chemicals could be responsible for this cancer. And after examining the list of chemicals and checking it, I realized there was a link with formaldehyde exposure and nasopharyngeal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But among the chemicals, there were many chemicals that I interacted with that were carcinogen. Arsenic, asbestos, carbon tetrachloride, chloroform, benzene, chromium, hydrazine, nickel, and orthotoluene, isopropyl alcohol, polychlorinated biphenyls. All these are known carcinogens.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what gets me a little more scared to know, well, really and truly, the chemicals on the work have affected me in such a way that I am finally afflicted with cancer.
It is very good that you identify, morning again, welcome to the program. It's very good that you identify those carcinogens because they are known to cause cancer. My query is this: were the workers, you included, aware of what you were working with? And two, what sort of protection was provided for you in the workplace?
Well, not really. Working at Federation Chemicals Ltd, we were under a very harsh, strident, top-down management system. We had to conform to authority. We were exposed to work or given work on an 8-hour day schedule. We didn't have time for anything other than interacting with the chemicals and bringing about certain outcomes. It is only throughout my years of experience working that gradually I became conscious of the fact that these were chemicals, these were carcinogens that we were working with, because some of these chemicals had a very pungent acrid vapor, a scent then that was uncomfortable to cope with.
Mm-hmm.
And not all chemicals that were carcinogen had a pungent acrid vapor, but this one in particular, formaldehyde, it was a very revolting scent that it gave off.
44 years working in the same area. So Sharmain raised a point. 34 years. Thank you. Sharmain raised a point a moment ago about the award being too low. I would agree that is a very low. Was there a number that they were being sued for? Was there a number put in?
No,
or this was only the judge's decision on this?
This is the judge's decision. You see, in trying to get this matter in a court of law, I had to visit a lot of lawyers. I went to a lot of lawyers, but it was hard in getting one to fight the case. Most of them complained that such a case would take $1 million to contest such an issue because Federation Chemicals Ltd is a big international company, Yara Limited. And, it was, I being a poor man, where would I get such money from?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went along until finally I got a lawyer from San Fernando who wrote them, and they said, well, look, you have to send certain information for them, telling them what sort of carcinogens I was exposed to. That is the letter I had wrote. And many workers were dying of cancer in the workplace. Well, he wrote them, and they said they would confirm if I could supply them with that information. But on supplying them with that information, they didn't reply to him because he was, so in their mind, a junior lawyer. So this lawyer took it to another lawyer who was senior to him. But this senior lawyer, who was senior to this lawyer, he seemed to me to be working in co with the company lawyer. He was taking everything that was pertinent to the case and leaving it out. So I had a hard time. It was like a trial within a trial, working with a lawyer who betrayed my trust and confidence from the very first day. Right? Hello?
Yes, we are.
Yes, sir, we're here.
Yeah.
So eventually, after 3 years of trying with another lawyer, eventually this lawyer wanted me to take next to nothing for the case and telling me they were satisfied with what the company was offering. That was sometime earlier this year. And that was a measly sum. Was like trying to reinvent the wheel. Like I was being sold for 5 pieces of silver. I was being sold for less money than my forefathers as slaves worked for. And I told him that I wouldn't accept such a payment because that is ridiculous. That is being absurd. But he taken the line that he took on the side, going on the side of the company, and looking at me as a fool, thought, well, that was the best advancement and I should accept it. But I didn't.
Glad
so
you did not.
I went back to another lawyer in town. I wouldn't call names. I don't think calling names is that. And he eventually contacted Mr. Logan, my present lawyer then, who took the case forward. After I paid off the lawyer had already taken about $60,000 from me, and I had to pay more before he give me the trial bundle, and then I had to go to Mr. Ram Logan to fight the case.
Let me just make it clear for our listeners who are joining us. Robert Daisley of Couva. He worked with Federation Chemicals for 34 years, found out that he had cancer, and went to the company, sued them, got a precedent-setting award of $1 million, which he believes, and many share the view, is woefully inadequate. He's our guest this morning. He is a survivor, he said, but nobody knows how much I've gone through because of the amount of chemo I had to undergo. Sharmain?
Mr. Daisley, well then, for us, this is a human interest story that we're going off our beaten track here because we usually deal with politics. So I'm seeing the human interest in this. Can you tell us your journey as a cancer patient in Trinidad as well? Because you that you did this, that you took this matter here, that you took this matter to court, and what does this victory for you? I know that you're not harping. Yes, the money does not reflect what you went through.
Victory, to some they would be in a celebratory mood, knowing it is the first case of its kind that reached the court. But to me, I am saddened by the whole affair because I have worked my fingers to the bones for Federation Chemicals Yara Trinidad Ltd. But I was treated harshly. I was treated discriminately, treated to a lot of discriminatory principles by management in Yara, and as a result, I was really a grave worker, So therefore, it left me no other choice but to try to seek justice from a place where I sacrificed my life for to get something out of it. So getting $1 million, really and truly, I would say thank God for small mercies, because it is only through divine intervention I was able to bring this case forward, because when the lawyer previous to this one that concluded the case had told me that, look, listen, you have to take this measly sum of money and it is reasonable. I had no money, faced in the middle of no man's land, what to do. And if this other lawyer, Mr. Anand Ramlogan, didn't take the case, I would have to accept this measly sum and be voiceless in the whole affair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it left me really perturbed, it was a really distressing affair at that point in time. But I have gone through a lot of distressing moments with the cancer affliction. From day one, within 3 weeks or 4 weeks of the treatment, I started to lose weight rapidly. I was reduced from 179 pounds to 128 pounds within a matter of 6 weeks. And it was devastating because I couldn't eat. I couldn't even follow my saliva with the radiation treatment. My saliva or anything liquid touched my tongue or touched my throat, it burned like if it was acid going down my throat. It was real pain. They gave me some medication to take, some sweet extract. But as soon as that went down, the pain resurfaced again. So I had, after this rapid loss of weight, my brother took me back to the hospital because I had an open letter to go to any medical center like the hospital to seek medical attention if it was becoming unbearable. So I went to Port of Spain Hospital. And in Port of Spain Hospital, I was treated with a lot of resentment from some physician there telling me at that time that why Brian Lara don't take care of their patients. Why should they send you now to the hospital when they are dealing with you? So it was a very frightening occasion. Seeking medical care in the hospital and being treated with that sort of assault, you tell yourself, can I trust these people to take medication from them? What about if I get a wrong injection or some nurse decide, well, look, the man, she fed up with me and that is the end of it. So after going for treatment with an ambulance that day from Port of Spain Hospital, so Brian Lara Cancer Center, and bawling all the way around, real intense pain, real pain, for hours under pain, I decided when I came back with the ambulance that if I have to die, I would go and die home. I wouldn't really stay in the hospital to let, to meet my demise there.
We are very thankful that you did make it through with all that pain. It is the sort of story that just grips at the heart, Sharmain, this morning. I think the good thing coming out of this is that the precedent he has set, Mr. Daisley, you can rest assured that you have set up a framework for many people in the energy sector who suffer respiratory failures like you have, or any other disease, to now look at this situation, because it is alarming. It is really shocking and almost vulgar to hear that working with benzene, arsenic, asbestos, and all these cancer agents, that there was no protection at all afforded you. But I am very glad that you have made it through, and it is such a testament of your fortitude to go through this, even with the experience you mentioned you had with your previous attorney. We are saluting you this morning, Sharmain.
What also we need to add to, and Mr. Daisley, I can see, because there's a hold on the judgment until September 10th. Pending an appeal from Federation Chemicals or Yara Trinidad Ltd, which means that you don't, as people are listening, you don't have cash in your hand right now, and you're not celebrating that victory in terms of the cash, as you said. It will not reward you, but it's a step for justice that you took under your circumstances.
What I am very grateful for is the judgment handed down by Justice Rajendra Rampasad, and I think it was through his wisdom and understanding and foresight that he was able to go through the case and bring about a satisfactory judgment, that I got justice finally from Fedchem, in the sense that I won the case, right?
Yes.
Being a first case, I don't know, and being the way how the former lawyer carried the case forward, maybe all that led to my being awarded that amount of money. But The thing is here is that there is nothing, something comes from nothing, and $1 million is something, so that could really grow into something. So I am grateful for Justice Rajendra Rampasad for making such a wise judgment, looking at the facts of the case, and showing Federation Chemicals Ltd. that they were negligent and they had a duty of care to do otherwise, to provide the necessary protective equipment, which they didn't do, and to be more observant and to take the necessary steps when someone is afflicted so that they get the necessary care.
It takes us also into a whole new realm, because I was reading in our research before this an article which stated that Fedchem had a really good safety record. And safety...
Well, listen, that safety record that you see there was at Fedchem, all of this has me in a saddened state. From 1959, that is when Fedchem was established, to 1997, Federation Chemicals Ltd. was known for its lack of diligence as far as workers were concerned. They were always health and safety issues. There were also concerns about working conditions, and we went on strike in 1980-81 for 6 months, from November 1980 to May 1981 for 6 months, for better working conditions and health and safety issues, right? And it goes to show you where how concerned, how callous a company could be. You have a workforce and you allow them to stay on strike for 6 months before you could look to address the problems that they were having, right? Besides that, Federation Chemicals Ltd. in the early days, there were a lot of fatal accidents taking place. In the lab in 1962, there was a fellow who met his demise through a fire. A bottle of benzene caught on fire, and he was burnt to a certain extent, and he died after a short while in hospital. After that, sometime in 1963, 64, 65, there was a villager where I came from, California. He was working in Fedchem, and he met his demise by walking in a hot molten pit, a pit of hot molten sulfur. That alone goes to show that if they had the necessary concern, that a worker wouldn't walk into a hot molten pit of sulfur and met his demise. In the 70s and so on, you had people meeting their demise, going on shutdown, going and sleep within vessels that were being purged with nitrogen. In the 80s, you had, in the construction of the Trinidad 2 plant, you had a fellow meeting his demise when one of the pipeline squeezed his head against, his head got squeezed in one of the pipeline that they were installing. In the 90s, in 1997, you got 2 workers meeting their demise in a compressor that blew up, and they got burned by steam and they died. 2 workers there, Fazam Hussein and Roy Sinanan, right? It's only with the coming of Yara Trinidad Ltd. That they started to enhance safety. Basic protective equipment like PPE was not compulsory. You know, you had a hard hat and glasses and earmuffs, right? But to wear coveralls and safety shoes, that was not compulsory. It's only with the coming of Hydro Agri, which is now Yara Trinidad Ltd., that protective equipment were made mandatory, were compulsory, and people were given hard hat and safety shoes, coveralls, and safety boots, and they were given it every 6 months, or whenever the boots, the wear and tear is finished now. Whatever comes first, the 6 months, or if the boots, the wear and tear became overused, you had a boots replaced within time. Hello?
Mr. Daisley, that also, and I understand what you're saying, and it's a long, hard road. It took us at least 2 decades to get to the point of hard hats and boots. And right now, what I'm seeing is that your legislation is now going to open up a can of worms for the things like formaldehyde and the other chemicals that they are exposed to, which I do not think is reflected in any legislation for worker safety in Trinidad and Tobago, as much as we are energy-based economy.
Okay. Now, let me tell you something here. Why I feel saddened by the whole affair. It is in 1997, I was elected safety delegate, chief safety delegate for the whole organization. Mm-hmm. And together with a group of men, I decided to transform safety within the organization with a group of 21 men, right? So, we transform safety by constant monitoring of a series of near-miss reporting and the corrective action to be taken when such an incident occurred. Mm-hmm. And then we had a close look at shift handovers. What took place on the previous shift, the incoming shift must closely review it to see a handover is safely taking place. And with that, we had 4 years without a lost time injury or accident. I was praised as a safety delegate for my effort. I was given a certificate for my effort to bring about change within the workplace. And to see that I place all my effort into trying to transform safety within an organization, I didn't have to become like a beggar now to try to get some sort of compensation or some sort of care and attention with my cancer affliction.
It is very clear, sir, that you have made a difference. The $1 million, as we all agreed, is not the best compensation we could think of, but we do have days sometime before an appeal is made. You have set a precedent, not only in what you just said you did to make life easier for workers, but in setting the precedent, you have now opened up, as Sharmain said, the can of worms, as it were, looking deep into Fedchem, and not just Fedchem / Yara as they are now, but all the energy-based industries, to see that education and protective conditions are in fact adhered to. We thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You have a wonderful day, and we will keep watching your case. And I salute, as Sharmain does, your strength this morning, because it is your strength to go through, even though you were misled by your first attorney, to keep going. And I'm sure you will keep going in the name of safety. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, and I want to say thanks to my lawyers, Mr. Anand Ramlogan and Mr. Gerard Ramdeen, for taking the effort and with free of charge at the time to advance the case forward. And I thank Mr. Justice Rampasad for bringing justice where justice is due.
Thank you so much, sir. Have yourself a great day now.